and welcome in the last animation part of our flying ship. So from the previous animation, what we got the flying ship and getting hit by this cannon, and then I did a few robots. I mean, I did a few more of them. So when the animation falling down and he's crawling here, I did just a few more robots to kind of like slowly closing the circle, and there's some of them in the second layer as well. And they are used the same technique as the other ones. Maybe this one is going a bit wrong direction, so we can just quickly adjust them. Let's just have a look on this pointy one, and it's going different direction, doesn't go towards our pirate, so maybe I can just give him a little bit like this. And I show you in the animation mode, you can adjust the curve of the direction. The only thing you need to readjust is the rotation to align the z-axis with the axis of the direction we are animating in. So what we're gonna do next, like what I'm missing here, this ship is just kind of straight. It's just like a linear spline and just like barely moving. And I know it's in the air, like air balloon probably be kind of more static than the ship on the ocean, but we used to see the ships with some movement of the waves. So I decided to add them a little bit here. So I can go to Voronoi fracture, which is we are using for our shape, and there we can see we have some kind of rotations we could play with. So I think those looks quite decent. Like let's see if I were rotating on the main object, yeah, it's the same axis. So let's just do animation on the Voronoi object. So I will zero it out, and then I will maybe go to -1. So just go a little bit down with our tip, and the -5, so we are going to the side. So we're gonna have more this kind of a clinging feeling, like going from side to side. Then I will add those keyframes, and I will go maybe frame like 56, which is roughly more than 2 seconds, and then we will close it. So it means this is our end loop. Then we're gonna go in the middle and we go to reverse. So it's +1 and +5. By doing this, you just have the even uniform scale or the number of going left and right, and maybe you can just see the real-time feedback. Let me just close all the different settings. So now the boat is kind of like moving left and right. It's way more organic. The pirate's standing straight there, which is probably fine. It's like he's kind of balancing it out there. The only problem is with our air balloon, because on the top of the ship, because if I will connect him with the Espresso, make sure it's there, maybe turn on the generators, I just keep the Espresso. So now the balloon is trying to stay there. The balloon will be moving left and right as well. So the question is if we mind or not. I don't mind too much, but we can also, like, what we could do, we could anchor it not to this ship which is rotating, but just have some object there, like some empty mesh. I'm thinking what would be better, but maybe we can keep it like as a one object. It's probably fine. So the only thing I would do here with our cloth in attributes, we would make to sure also that we are using tier forces. Yeah, we have the gravity. Maybe the gravity can be slightly smaller when the cloth will be shot down and falling down. So we don't, it's supposed to be still the hot air in it. So we don't have to have a real gravity. And we have relax here. We do the relax. Then the balloon will kind of stay in the right position. So and then we just have to be sure. Actually, I lost the. Go back. Play it. As you can see, when you have turn on generators, it's get everything like way slower because we have to run the simulation of the Voronoi, and maybe we can even turn on the surface for now to get more frames. Still a little bit slow, so let me just turn on the generators, play the animation, and make sure we have our ship set to our points. Over here. Okay, so now we can see even the interaction of everything. And all the points are being held. The problem is the geometry doesn't update really well. And it looks like it's just a preview thing, because when I stop it, it actually hold there. So I got confused for a little bit. I don't know why Cinema 4D doesn't like do real updating, but it seems that otherwise everything works fine. So that's for that. And now when we have our ship kind of clinging or moving in the waves, just come here, open the timeline, and then we can again use OM selection, so we can just see everything that's happening in our frames. Then I can cover here, and we can basically set for both rotation in both axes, after, offset and repeat, and just repetition like 20 times. Again over here, after, offset and repeat 20 times. So now we have the base, which is going to be keep rotating, and actually where it could stop is in the moment when we got hit. So let me see. We believe it's frame 114. So after frame 114, we don't need the rotation, but at the same time, there's going to be the Voronoi happening. So we probably won't be able to see it anyway, but it might be good to turn off any additional keyframes after being hit. So let me check if I'll go back here and I will turn on our generators. It will be a little bit slower. So all the pieces we got here. Actually way slower than it should be. So let me just turn off the cloth. Okay, let me check where we are enabling it in the frame 112. So I'll just jump over here and play it from here. Okay, so we need to readjust the animation over here. Okay, so now we have this ship flying in here, and what I want to add here is a little bit of movement, like you would have to see on the ship when you're flying or going through the waves and being hit. So it wouldn't be like so static. This is not what you expect on the like pirate ship. So we can go here on the main folder or main group and go to our ship. So let's just add some degree for change over here. So we can here or here on the ship, we can put like -1, maybe to have a little bit like put the tip under the waves, imaginary waves, of course, and then tilt it on the side. So I would just go over here, then we can go like 25, 26, whatever, 57 frames ahead, which is roughly 2 seconds, and even more, and then we can like put another keyframe, which doesn't do any change, and then we're gonna go in between those frames, and I'll just do reverse values. So it's -1, I will go to +1, and so -5, I'll do +5, and I'll just add the keyframes. By doing it, now you will have smooth animation when the ship is kind of like more interestingly just floating left to right. The question is if the balloon will be moving left and right as well. I think it might be kind of more static, but at the same time, I never seen flying pirate ships, so I don't know how it behave. So who knows? And when we have those keyframes, let me just go here over the ship, and then we can repeat this few times. So we are getting hit by frame 114. So we don't want to necessarily add any keyframes later on. So what we can do here, we can just take these keyframes in the ship, and just with control, just copy and paste them. So now we have our frame copied, and then the only thing here I don't want to change is the position of x-axis. So just make sure we are selecting only the rotation. So again, I will go here, let's select only the rotations. And those one with control, just drag like that. So now we have those nice curves and they ended up in the frame 114, which is kind of lucky coincidence. If it'd be longer, we could probably just extend the curves a little bit, or we can still do even what we are showing last time. We can do set after and after oscillate. So you can basically have the infinite loop. The only problem with this, when the ship is flying down, you probably don't want to have any additional rotation or animation to it. So this is kind of finishing in the moment when the ship is being hit. So now when we play it, you should be able to see the ship kind of like clinging left and right. The pirate is pretty happy. He's doing his own thing. And now we will get the cannon there. The cannon is not animated right now, so we don't see the hit, but let me turn it on. So now we have the cannon. It's kind of hitting everything, splitting the balloon. The explosions may be almost too drastic. You can play with the way how it's interacting with the ground and the effects, or maybe you can even merge some of the groups together. But it looks kind of crazy. And then the pirate's falling down here. We can even give him like collision object, so he'll be colliding with the cloth being there. And then we have our astronauts. The same goes with the objects. If you give this astronaut, if you give this pirate the collision object, he can be actually hitting the objects which are on the ground. And right now when he's sitting, I can tell, I don't think I moved our ground, and there is some overlapping things. So let me just check that we have all the astronauts are doing great. So this geometry. You can see those guys, they're working higher than the ground. So I will adjust that for sure. Let me just come over here, go to Mobi, select all of them. And then I will just move them a little bit lower to be sure they are interacting with the ground. Okay. And the last guy we got here is our main hero, the pirate. And we can see he's kind of sitting lower than he should. So what we can do when we're animating him and he's falling down, okay, let me just lift him a little bit here. Should be able to do it just with adjusting this value. Okay. This is just details, but it's good to have the connection on the ground. Of course, the ship is kind of messy here, so we can even hide the ship and the balloon. So let me just turn it on, turn it off. You can now see more clearly the robots if they're actually working on the ground, except the flying ones. And if you want to see only the pirate, we can just turn him back on and we see that he's still kind of flying actually in the air. So let me just adjust it over here. So now he sits pretty well. So I think that's for the animation. I think we are doing quite well. And the last thing I would like to do, at least I think is the last thing, is when we have this cannon shooting in. And now we can like just turn off the ship again to just get some keyframes speed. So now we will focus on the gun. So the gun open here, and then we basically start shooting here. Even though I was thinking that what we could do here would be actually our cannons, they could be aimed, you know, you can have the null object and be moving up and down. The cannon would be basically kind of moving the rotation. So if you do that, the cannons would not be affected when we have the recoil and hitting back. But in the same time, I kind of like when we are folding the gun in, this kind of jump with the gun. So it depends. If actually you want to do this effect. I'm thinking now out loud. It's maybe fine as it is. It's a powerful laser, what I gonna tell you. Maybe you can do just a little bit smaller recoil to don't have so intense the effect. So it's just in where did we do the animation? Yeah, so over here, we'll just go over here and then wait for a second, looking for where it is. So now we have the hit. So maybe we just don't make it so strong. So I will select all of them, hit S button to make it like a little bit closer. And then we can maybe just a little bit reduce our curve here. Yeah, it's way better. Okay, so let's just do quickly preview. And I think that could be done for animation part. So let's just quickly go over here. The preview, view render port, viewport render. Then make sure we will turn everything back on. Maybe we will hide the ground. And let's just test it out. I'll just save it incrementally. All right, so we have the preview render over here. We have the ship. The ship is kind of flying around, a little bit more moving. I think it looks better. Then we opening the door, and then all the robots start coming in. We don't have that much time to be at the end, but I mean, if you have a longer footage, if you're using your footage, you can play with it more. I wish I have a little bit more time, but this should be enough for I to register what's going on, and maybe he can fall even sooner. But I think it's enough. It's he will read what's going on. Um, Yeah, I mean, I might add a little bit cloth. I can add the cloth collision on him, so when he's like falling down, you can hit this kind of cloth pieces. But other than that, I think we are good to go for next part. So I hope you are in the good position with the scene. And now I will start showing you how to render it and prepare it for the comping to be able to make it kind of seamlessly mix with the real life. I will use all the textures trying to blend it in into a real environment, but also we want to focus on making it work slightly better. Here you can see this capsule shape, which is a little bit boring. We don't see any like ropes or details we would see, and it might take a lot of time to set a proper rope structure. So we might just leave it for now, but what do I want to add at least? It's like some sign of like being compressed by the ropes and maybe have some texture on the balloon. So what we will do, I will make sure that our gun is not calculating because we don't need it right now. And then I will just turn off the cloth and let's go over here. I'll check our capsule, and to be honest, when I want to add those strips and do cloth simulation, this kind of division, this kind of cutting, is maybe too extreme when I start doing it. So I'm sorry, but I will just create new capsule over here, and then I will just make it same size. Go to frame 1. Now it's kind of funky because the position doesn't really fully align because our ship is already leaning. So there's a few different ways how we can do it, but the easiest probably gonna be just to zero it out. You don't have to put the keyframe, but just to zero it out. And then I'll just Alt A, sorry, Alt 0, and I will align it. So we are pretty much there. As you can see, I didn't even change my shape of this capsule before. And then rotation segments, just add more segments to make it editable. And actually it can be even more. So let's have even more. I can do 18. We will add some subdivision later on, but then I will hit C to make it editable. This is quite good. I actually might add even more on rotation segments. Yes, now I'm happy. All right, so what we're gonna do, this is gonna be the cloth, the same cloth we are using on the first one. So I'll just bring it there. Same with the texture and the belt tag as well, but we will actually play with it and create some new belt tag. So let's come here to capsule and I will hit UL and I will select the points around the balloon, like maybe around this angle and this angle, or those two rows. I think it's quite good towards the center. And then I will hit the capsule, simulation, belts, cloth belt, and then I will just bring some geometry, which is going to be affected by the shape. That's quite important to be in the same group. So I'll bring this one, the shape, and then I'll just set tag. You can see the yellow lines, it means it was set successfully. And now when I apply this, we can see that it's trying to be something there, but it's like all falling down into inevitable. So what are we gonna do? We can lower the gravity to be done so dramatic, and we can increase the drag. As you can see, now it's already trying to hold more together and doesn't fall so quickly, but it still doesn't really deal with the main thing we are dealing here with. So there's a few options what we can do. Like one of them is we can actually blow the wind from the bottom. So let's say we want to blow in the y direction and we want to add some fair speed. So now it's already doing something. It's still lacking behind because it doesn't have the directional wind. So maybe we can bring the back X. And I'm not sure this is enough. Where is this V? Sorry. I'll check it out one more time. Yeah, I think now we are doing way better. Let me play with the Z more. And I'm wondering if you will be able to no. And that's my fault because I didn't set right axis and it is on XX. So it's minus X because we can see here on the top of the corner that this X is going against it. So now when we put it, start blowing, it's actually going up and front. So now we don't go so drastic. Just roughly going with balloon. All right. So this is great. I know it doesn't look like it's doing exactly what it should, but that's because we are not done. I will bring the attractor, which again is under the ship. We'll go into frame 0. I will hit Alt 0, so make sure that our attractor is in the center. And then I will just bring it here in the center of the balloon. We might even have like 2 attractors, maybe under the both rings, but let's just start with the one. And I will put like something like minus 1000. What it's doing now, it just start blowing away the wind. It actually start creating the pressure inside. It's maybe too much, so you can maybe put just minus 300. Okay, now it's doing something, but we're still not really happy. So what we can do, we can add some iterations to make the object a little bit tougher. The rubberness, it looks quite rubby enough, so I wouldn't go too crazy. To give a little bit of overhead for our balloon, we can increase the size. So it will just go a little bit bigger. I mean, I can show you it's gonna be maybe too hectic in the beginning, but if I will put, say, let's say 110, it just like start blowing away. Just expand the shape, expand the volume size. So you can just go something small. And then was the main problem that the entire balloon is being dragged behind. It just doesn't flow with it, even though we have those set up. So what we want to do, we want to do a few another things. Like first of all, would be nice if the direction would follow maybe stronger. So I'll put 10. And it's still not doing what we want. So maybe what we can do here also, let me just delete the original one. So we have those set up for 100%. And now let's create one more tag. I will create cloth belt. I can put it even behind. I will select, go to point selection. I will select all of the points. And I'll do the same thing. I'll bring the ship. I'll do set. And then maybe I will just do 50 as we had before to kind of keep it more loose. It's still loading. I'll put 50. And then over here, maybe I will, before it was kind of getting crazy results. So I will keep the wind blowing a little bit up and the direction I'm gonna reduce by half. So let's see what we get now. And also let's hide the draw sticks or draw lines. So this is already starting looking somehow more meaningful, I would say. We see the wind, we see the wrinkling on this balloon, and we see this kind of like hard edges, which we can use for different textures, or we can put some rings there. Let me see the definition. I mean, you could probably use, both options are possible. So let me go here. Maybe we can play now. When we stabilize it, maybe with 105, like bigger number you put, like the more cloth you will give here to actually be able to affect by the wind, and you can still be a little bit playful with it, but I think even what we had before was working just fine. Yeah, maybe just, okay, this is needle picking, so it's fine. Let's keep it for now. The rubber, I think if you're gonna put too big, it's gonna be kind of floppy, but just creating the small effect underneath it, which I actually really like. So I'll definitely keep it there. Now it's getting testing part, because now it's gonna be shooting the balloon. So we want to be sure we're still using the tier. The attractor, it's minus 300, that's fine. So I think we should be good to go. I mean, if you want to have a lot of details, the self-collision, but I don't think in this case we need self-collision. So let's just see how it looks with the gun activated. So we are balloon, happily flying in. We can just check it from the final camera because that's what is matter. Because as you can see, actually, at the end, we don't see crazy of those details, but they are still there. And they does the difference, and even the small cloth here, kind of whirling, it definitely does the difference. Okay, so now we have a shoot, the gun coming in. And let's see what's gonna happen. The balloon kind of stays in the air till it's cut. Then it seems kind of exploding. I think it's fine, but it's something a bit boring. We want to make it cooler. So use tier, that's great, but I don't think it tier really well. There's a few different reasons. Maybe the iteration was too big. We can make it a little bit more fragile. Size should be fine, even though bigger size we put, there is a more demolition part, or like more cloth to be folded before it starts actually tearing. So that might be a little bit problem. But I would also play with the drag and the gravity. We can do in a moment of hit, which is 114. This is a little bit cheat, or it's not cheat, but just helping simulation. Just put the keyframe on gravity and maybe make it a little bit smoother, and then we can just put sorry, then we can just put the gravity 0. So it's gonna be after the hit, so maybe like this, and then gravity over here. Okay, so this is just small hack how we can help with our animation. We did a lot of changes, so let's see how it's working now. It should be a little bit more airy. I remove a little bit of the drag, which kind of trying to keep it more hold, more shape, but it actually works even better. You can see really it's kind of bubbly. I don't mind it at all. And now after the hit, we should be able to see this thing like more dramatically start falling down. Okay. And frankly enough, I don't think it make really holes in it. That's shame, but not. Oh, okay. So sorry, this was my fault. Um, of course, it was my fault. Who else? When we are using the tier, we need to have the close surface on, and you can see this is kind of ugly. So let me see what's gonna happen when we turn on the extractor. All right, so the last thing to this animation, and I know now we're getting a little bit complicated. I mean, you can skip this step if you were happy with the balloon you had before. It's just we are going some a little bit not super advanced, but a little bit advanced, yeah. We have this thing when we start like dropping down the gravity, but what I didn't do, I didn't drop the influence of the keyframes, so it's still trying to keep locked to the original position of the ship. So what we can do here, we can just go to influence, and after the hit, which is pretty soon, like just a few frames, I'll just put the influence to 0. So we don't want this to be tied to anything. We want to have the gravity. Oh, there's some. Okay, I guess because it's night, I'm not really paying attention. Sorry, my fault. We don't want, of course, gravity 0. We want to go more to original ones, something like -6. So let's check it out, what we got here right now. So we have the object, which is a little bit broken here. It's maybe because we reduced the iteration, so I'll just bring them back. Tier is good, size is good. Okay, I'm testing it on the fly as I go with you. All right, now I was a little bit playing here with to getting a little bit better results because it was not getting really what I wanted. So if we have these taglines and we have it's starting on influence 100, oh, delete this tag. It play the ship quite fine, but if I keep the tag there, it explodes because it's just aggressive and drag it together with it. So what we can do here, we can just go to our tag, go into first frame, just delete this frame, and then go to our frame later on and just put some lower number like 80. Now we turn it on, it's working fine. Maybe one thing is happening here is getting too wobbly. Depends on our attractor because it's not turned on now, so able to finding the right balance, not having an attractor too strong, so maybe just even minus 200, and the effects of the tier you can put a little bit bigger, like 150, so it not should explode so easily, or maybe 140 because we still want to explode it when we hit it with the guns. So and now I'm quite happy with where it's heading. Rubber is quite big, we can even reduce it. And then let's see what's happening when we will hit it with the gun. So we have laser on, coming, shooting through the ship. And it's like destroying nicely, but the problem what I have with it, it just stays in the air. It's because there is a slow drag. We lower the influence, it's gone. We add the gravity, -6, we can add even more, but we still blowing the wind from the bottom and we have the drag. So we still have multiple other forces to go against it. So we could also remove the air resistance, or we can just turn all of those. I would personally just reduce the drag and the gravity. I know we are now getting to the point where we're basically emitting most of the parameters here to turn down, but at least I'm keeping them on the same keyframe so we can just readjust it fairly easy. So I will turn off the wind and I will really reduce the drag. Maybe 2. So right now when we play this, should be able to get some decent simulation. And I know, again, as I said, like you might not need the cloth simulations, but they are quite handy to use when you're using Cinema 4D. So we are getting our gun, it's gaming, shooting, the box shooting through the ship, everything is falling, being cut apart, and also, as you can see, those big squares are not details enough. We can also counteract with adding the subdivision to everything. As you can see, the cloth at the end falling faster than him, so we maybe did remove it even too much. So we might keep a drag a little bit bigger. And the guy is on its own. Our pirate, we can go to his body. We can actually give him the cloth collider, so he'll be kind of interacting with the cloth as he's falling down. So I think that will add another detail. And yeah, I mean, I would probably even think to add more cuts, but let's just go with this. So now we see when he's falling down, it's actually tearing the parts again. We will have a sweep NURBS on, so it will lift a little bit more details to our balloon. and he falls down through it. You have collision on him now, so it's everything's a bit slower. And he nicely falling on the actually cloth or tarp. But I hate how slow is the collision on him actually. So that's how it works in theory. If you have more time, you would just put the collider, but I don't like the speed of it, so let's just keep it without that. And yeah, let's now set up the render. Let's just set up the view.